Hey everybody, welcome back to Arthur Invests. So what I want to talk about today is all the signs that are happening in the market and the things that you're reading on YouTube, the stuff that you're hearing maybe on podcasts or things that you're reading out there and all the different articles that we're clicking on today as it pertains to the real estate market anyway. You keep hearing about how there was supposed to be this big crash in the housing market. Well, if it's not clear, it's clear now. There's definitely not going to be a crash, but you still hear people talking about it. There's going to be this big crash. Should I wait for the crash? Should I wait for the price corrections? And so what I'm going to do today is just talk about five things in terms of what I think about when I look at the future of what's going on over the next 24 months or 12 months or so in the real estate market. It's always a changing bit. There's always stuff that can happen. But if you were to ask me, look into your crystal ball and think about what we have that's on the horizon here for real estate. And I'll give you kind of my predictions based on, the folks that I'm talking to in the mortgage industry, what my local market's looking like as I'm kind of searching the MLS and talking to realtors fairly consistently. And in fact, I have a couple of booked for next week to come on to the actual YouTube channel here and give us some sense of what's going on in the market there. So excited to share that with you. But without further ado, let's talk about the five things I see happening here with this upcoming crash that you're hearing so much about. First off, there's going to be more inventory. I know that sounds crazy given how competitive it is. And I will tell you now, I have about 3 zip codes that I actively invest in my market. And there is a little bit more inventory, but we're talking like just a little bit more, not a meaningful amount. And the stuff that's there is just not very interesting. In terms from an investment standpoint, I can't do a whole lot of value add. There's not an easy way for me to earn equity or force appreciation or anything like that. And so it really causes me hesitation to want to jump back in and buy another rental right now, just because there's just hard for me to see. Now, if I was actively farming an area, maybe I was sending out yellow letters or calling homeowners or door knocking, which I have no interest in doing any of those things because, as you all know, I have a day job. So I'm not interested in that. But I will just say, I think we're going to start to see more inventory. And then, as we all know in real estate, inventory begets more inventory, right? The more people who put their houses on, the more people who have options to move up. Right now, you just have a little bit of a landlock. The same reason we don't see renters leaving, because where are they going to go? There's not a lot of options out there. In my market, vacancies like 98, 99% in almost all multifamilies, which is crazy, right? It's just, you don't see those types of rates in a normal market. So all that to say, there is going to be more inventory. People are excited about the price accelerations. We're hearing about Biden's focus around, or the administration's focused around how they're going to do some capital gains. There's some initiatives around that. Now, who knows where those will pencil out, whether you're on the right or on the left, it's irrelevant. We know that there's going to be a tax hike here when it comes to capital gains in some shape or form. So maybe some people are going to liquidate that. But I don't think we're going to see a mass entrance of a ton of inventory. I think we get to a healthier market, but I don't think we get to a place where you're going to see huge price discounts and cuts with all this excess inventory that nobody wants to buy. There's just too many fundamentals with move up buyers, first level buyers, investors purchasing homes, small mom and pop landlords like myself, and also institutional investors who we are seeing enter the market that are doing, buy to rent. They're just holding on to those things in the portfolio and not selling them. So we're going to continue to see more inventory. And I would probably say that's going to take, 1 or 2 quarters to fully mature, but you will see some more options here. So I think, that will be one thing that starts to happen. Now, in terms of price fluctuation, this is the second one. I think we start to see in Q3 a little bit of a deceleration of the rate of appreciation. Now, I want to be clear what I mean by that. A deceleration in price increase does not mean a crash. I'm not saying that we're going to start to see a 20% correction. We're probably going to stop seeing, a 5% month over month appreciation. I just think that type of appreciation, just from the finance standpoint, it can't continue simply because people aren't growing their wages at that rate. Now, I will say that mortgages are still relatively affordable. And even though prices have shot up, one of the mistakes that people make is they'll compare, well, these are prices that are at all-time highs. And yes, while that's correct as far as the value of the homes compared to 2006, we may be higher, but the big difference is that the interest rate and affordability is a lot lower. So while on a dollar per dollar for the cost of the asset is the same in terms of the rate of money and the cost of those payments, which is how 98% of the people buy things. They buy based on monthly payments. We're still pretty affordable in most markets. In my market, we're still not where we were in terms of cost affordability compared to 2006, even though prices are about 30% higher now than they were back then. So that's an interesting point. So I will say you're going to see some price fluctuation. I think things are going to come down as more inventory comes on, but I don't think we're going to see I'm talking 5%, maybe 10% difference than what we're seeing now. I don't think you go, 10% would be a pretty big move. So I don't think we really see much more than a 5% fluctuation as we get to Q3. And then, anyone's guess after we get out of this year. The other piece, the number 3 is around what are my thoughts on forbearance, right? This was going to be the big thing that was going to cause a huge crash, right? You're going to get all these people who are taking forbearance, putting their houses on the market. And then that starts to act very similar to what happened in 2008. We start to see price deceleration, and all of a sudden, the whole neighborhood's for sale. Now, that's not going to happen this time. Sorry if you're waiting for foreclosures or forbearance homes to come on the market. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It just doesn't make sense. Let me tell you one big reason why that's not going to happen. Well, there's two factors, I would say. First is people have equity now. Look at it. If you just sat on your home or bought a new home last year and held onto it, didn't even make a payment in the forbearance model, you have about 20% appreciation just sitting in your home, maybe not even paying your bill. That's 20%. If you have a $300,000 home, that's 60 grand that you got. And now you have movement. That's enough to pay for realtor fees. That's enough to pay for listing, maybe fix up the house a little bit if you get into an escrow. So if people are in forbearance and need to move due to financial situations, they're going to just move. But on top of that, you have equity. The other piece is the banks are not letting people do that. Avoidable forbearance or foreclosure is going to make banks work out individual situations with borrowers. So they're going to throw a second note on the back. Maybe they're going to extend out the mortgage to 40 years. You're going to see a lot of interesting products come out to support keeping these people in the homes, which means they never hit the market. So congratulations, there is going to be no crash. Forbearance is not going to give you this great price depreciation that you're looking for. So we can just move on to the next point. So that's what I think about that. Now, the other trend that I think we're going to start to see is that while we won't see crash, we are still going to see migration. I think this is going to be something that happens over the next 24 months and continuing as we get more normalized. People just realize that the work from home thing is a real factor. Now, whether or not people can work fully from home, I think is more of the debate. But I've talked to multiple people in my real day-to-day job where I talk with large enterprises. They're telling me that they're letting their folks go remote, and they're going to have like monthly meetings where they're flying people in maybe twice a month to have a meeting. But the bulk of their enterprise is going to be just working remotely. So people are going to have some freedom. If you live in California, maybe you don't live in Los Angeles where there's all this traffic and prices are sky high. Maybe you move out to Central Valley, or maybe you move a little bit more inland where prices are more affordable, but you still get the great weather. You go to a tax favorable state. I still think we see this movement. So keep an eye on your market because you could see some changes. Now, for my market, Central Valley, this has actually been a great time. Over the past 10 years, in the Bakersfield market anyway, we are seeing a net inward migration, which is unique, about 1,800 people a year. And then last year, they had a huge surge of people. Because why? Well, if you're living in Santa Clarita or Los Angeles, it's not that much harder to go up to Bakersfield, and you literally get triple your money. And huge home, good school districts. Now, there's a lot of ugly parts, but there's a lot of ugly parts in LA as well. So people are making conscious decisions. And so I think we still continue to see migration. So that's going to be one thing that happens. The fifth thing and the last thing that will influence what's happening over the next 12 months here is we're going to see interesting loan products come out. So we're starting to see some initiatives from the administration here, the Biden administration, that they're going to start to help out first-time homeowners or first-generation homeowners. Is probably another way to look at that. Incentives up to $20,000 to $30,000, depending on the program. Now, none of these have materialized, but I think we can see from the aggressive agenda that they have. Now, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just kind of saying that's what we've noticed. There's going to be a lot of appetite to put product like this in the market. And as we start to see a more of a focus around equity and in distribution in certain people groups, I could start to see very targeted loan products, maybe for an entry home level, an entry buyer, first generation homeowner. Maybe they get a 40-year note. Maybe they get a 35-year note. Maybe they get a no money down note. Something like this. I think we're going to see a lot of these things that are going to lift these kind of lower end, newer buyers, I guess not lower end, but newer end buyers to the lower end of the market, lower that barrier of entry, right? No down payment or low down payment or no PMI, things of that nature, potentially assumable loans. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to put all that out there because I do think there's going to be an appetite for more housing and affordability. And it's not obvious to me that they're going to be able to create product in a short period of time in terms of new homes. So I think they're going to be trying to go at it at this rate. So, we're going to see some interesting things, but I would say those are the 5 things that I'm seeing. I think that I could bank on those over the next 12. I still think we walk out of this year probably double digit appreciation. And then next year, we're probably going to be somewhere around, 5%, give or take 5%, maybe north, 5 to 10%. I would probably say like 7% is probably safe, but that's where I would guess. And so that's what I'm saying. No crash. You can write home about that. We're not going to see any implosion of foreclosures or anything of that nature. So if you're on the fence thinking about buying, I would probably try to get in the game. I think that if you're not a homeowner, you're going to regret it in about a year and a half, 2 years. You may want to be looking at inventory coming on the market, but it's just kind of one of those things where, you got to have to pay to play type thing. So we'll see where it goes. Hope you enjoyed my thoughts. Hope you liked this feedback. If you do, like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Take care, everyone.